On the 108th time Fin Jiang proposed to me, I finally said yes. The night we got our marriage certificate, an anonymous video popped up on my phone. In the footage, Fin Jiang was kneeling on the marble floor of a shopping mall atrium, a woman in a white dress standing before him. Nora, I'm sorry. Please don't leave me. His voice echoed sharply through the empty mall. A crowd had gathered, filming the scene. Livestream comments flooded in. Tisk ta, kneeling to another woman on his wedding day, what a scumbag. Who's Nora Lin? Wasn't Mr. Jiang just married today? Fellas, place your bets, who's he spending the night with? Watching him grovel so pathetically, I remembered the words he'd spoken when he first proposed. Stella, you're the only woman I'll ever kneel for. But now he was on his knees for someone else. I set down my phone, walked to the safe and pulled out the equity transfer agreement Fin Jiang had signed with his first proposal. Back then, to prove his sincerity, he'd volunteered this clause. If he ever betrayed me, all shares in his companies would be transferred to my name. I scrawled my signature across the paper. The marriage he'd won with 108 proposals would cost him everything on its very first day. My phone rang. It was Fin Jiang. Darling, I might not make it home tonight. His voice sounded exhausted. The company has an emergency project. I need to pull an all-nighter. I checked the video's timestamp. It was taken just 10 minutes ago. Hard work, I replied calmly. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. I've booked our honeymoon suite, the presidential villa in the Maldives. Fine, I said shortly. After hanging up, I texted my private investigator. Operation begins. If he chose to lie, he'd have no one to blame but himself. Early the next morning, Fin Jiang stumbled home with a huge bouquet of roses, fatigue still etched on his face. Darling, last night was crazy. I didn't get a wink of sleep. He kissed my cheek. Did you miss me? I lifted my coffee cup, my gaze steady. I did. Good. He let out a sigh of relief. Oh, and we hired a new designer at the company, Nora Lin. She stayed up with me to finish the project last night. She's really talented. My hand trembled slightly at the name. He actually had the nerve to mention her to my face. Is that so? I set down the cup. When will you introduce us? A flicker of panic crossed Fin Jiang's eyes, but he masked it quickly. She's a bit shy. We'll find a time later. Sure. I stood up, grabbing my bag. I might be late tonight. I have an important case to handle at the law firm. What case is so urgent? An equity dispute. I met his gaze directly. The stakes are high enough to bankrupt a company. Fin Jiang's face drained of color instantly. I leaned in, whispering in his ear, Husband, honesty is the best policy. Otherwise you'll pay the price. With that, I walked out without looking back. At the firm, my assistant Xiao Wang handed me an investigation report. Miss Shen, all the information you requested is here. I flipped through the pages, which detailed the entire timeline of Fin Jiang and Nora Lin's relationship. It turned out they'd been seeing each other for 3 months already. And I'd been such a fool, crying my eyes out over his 108th proposal. The last page read, Nora Lin, 26, interior designer, single. Currently in an illicit relationship with Fin Jiang. They had a public argument at Wanda Plaza Atrium last night, where Fin Jiang knelt to beg her to stay. I closed the report, grabbed the glass of red wine on my desk and downed it in one gulp. Fin Jiang, if you love kneeling in shopping malls so much, I'll give you all the chances in the world to do it. Chapter 2. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I arrived at Wanda Plaza right on time. This was where Fin Jiang and Nora Lin often met up, the same spot where he'd knelt last night. I headed to the security room, flashed my lawyer's ID and said, I need access to last night's surveillance footage. It's for a critical legal case. The security chief checked my credentials, then complied, pulling up the video. On the screen, Fin Jiang and Nora Lin were arguing outside a jewelry store. Nora, listen to me, my marriage to her is just a business arrangement. You're the only one I love. Fin Jiang grabbed her hand. Then why did you marry her? Nora Lin wrenched her hand away, tears glistening in her eyes. The company needed cash flow, her family has money. Fin Jiang's words sent a chill through my heart. Once the company gets back on track, I'll divorce her and marry you. I don't believe you. Nora Lin turned to leave. Fin Jiang panicked, dropping to his knees with a thud. Nora, I swear you're the only one I'll ever love. If I'm lying, may I be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. The crowd around them grew larger, people filming and gossiping. Isn't that the boss of Jiang Group? Yeah. He was all over the news yesterday for marrying top lawyer Stella Shen. Cheating already? What a piece of work. Satisfied, I told the chief, copy this footage for me. It's crucial evidence. Leaving the security room, I went straight to the jewelry store. The clerk recognized me immediately. Miss Shin, you're here. The custom diamond ring Mr. Jiang ordered for you is ready. I froze. What ring? Mr. Jiang said he wanted to surprise his wife. It's a 5-carat diamond ring. The clerk chattered on enthusiastically. Though he was here with another lady yesterday and they had a bit of a falling out. I smiled coldly but feigned interest. Oh? What happened? When that lady saw the ring was for you, she got furious and called Mr. Jiang a liar. Then he knelt down to apologize to her. The clerk gossiped. In the end, Mr. Jiang ordered the exact same ring for her too. The exact same ring. So in Fin Jiang's eyes, I was no different from her. I don't want the ring. I turned to leave. Keep the money, consider it a tip. As I stepped out of the store, my phone rang again. It was Fin Jiang. Darling, where are you? His voice sounded strained with nervousness. At the mall buying you a gift. I glanced at the bustling crowd around me. What are you up to? Nothing much. Just missing you. Is that so? I walked over to the spot where he'd knelt last night. Can you come keep me company? I'm in a meeting with a client right now. Fin Jiang hesitated. What client? A design client. She's being a bit difficult. I laughed softly. Fin Jiang, do you know the cost of lying? What do you mean? His voice trembled. Nothing. I hung up the phone. Standing where he'd knelt for another woman just last night, I felt a wave of absurdity wash over me. 5 years of love, 108 proposals, it had all been a lie. I pulled out my phone and texted the private investigator, initiate plan B. A reply came seconds later. Received. Mission will be accomplished. I checked my watch, 2 hours left until Fin Jiang received his special gift. And now I had someone to meet. Someone who could help me destroy Fin Jiang completely. I walked toward the mall cafe where a middle-aged man was waiting at a table. He was Fin Jiang's biggest competitor and my ally for today. Mr. Wang, it's an honor to meet you. I sat down across from him. Mr. Wang looked up, surprise flashing in his eyes. Miss Shin, I wasn't expecting you to reach out. I have a business proposition for you. I slid a folder across the table. Regarding Jiang Group. Mr. Wang picked it up, his eyes widening with excitement as he read. Miss Shin, this information is all 100% accurate. I cut him off. Jiang Group's cash flow is about to collapse. One well-timed push and... I see. Mr. Wang closed the folder. What do you need me to do? Tomorrow morning, Jiang Group is holding a board meeting to discuss their new financing plan. I met his gaze. I want you to be there. In what capacity? Creditor. I pulled out another document. This is a list of debts Jiang Group owes your company, totaling 300 million yuan. Mr. Wang stared at the papers, letting out a low whistle. Miss Shin, this. All legitimate debts with signed contracts and receipts. I said coolly. Tomorrow, all you need to do is show up and demand immediate repayment. And if they can't pay, then we file for bankruptcy liquidation. I stood up. At which point, you can acquire Jiang Group's prime assets at a bargain price. Mr. Wang's eyes lit up. This is a brilliant plan. Then let's make a deal. I held out my hand. He shook it firmly. Miss Shin, you're really going for the kill with Fin Jiang, aren't you? He owes me. And now it's time to pay up. Stepping out of the cafe, I checked my watch again. 1 hour left until the show began. Chapter 3 At 7 o'clock that evening, I returned home punctually. Fin Jiang was already waiting in the living room, his expression grim. Stella, we need to talk. His voice was cold and serious. About what? I set down my bag and sat casually on the sofa. Someone sent me some photos. Fin Jiang pulled out his phone. It's you and Wang Zhenhua meeting at the cafe. I glanced at the pictures. They were indeed taken this afternoon when I met with Mr. Wang. And... my voice was calm as still water. Wang Zhenhua is my arch-rival. Why were you meeting with him? Fury blazed in Fin Jiang's eyes. What are you hiding from me? At that I couldn't help but laugh. Fin Jiang, are you questioning me? I stood up, locking eyes with him. What right do you have to question me? I'm your husband, that's my right. Husband. I pulled out my phone and played the surveillance video from the mall last night. Is this how a husband acts? The color drained from Fin Jiang's face the second he saw the footage. Stella, let me explain. Explain what? I cut him off sharply. Explain why you knelt to another woman on our wedding day? Explain why you bought her the exact same ring as mine? Or explain why you told everyone you married me just for my family's money? Fin Jiang opened his mouth but no words came out. Fin Jiang, the moment you chose to betray me, this game began. I walked to the safe and pulled out the equity transfer agreement. Do you remember this? His face turned ashen when he saw the document. This agreement is already in effect. I placed it on the coffee table. As of today, all shares of Jiang Group belong to me. That's impossible. Fin Jiang lunged at me trying to grab the paper. I never agreed to the transfer. You already did. I pulled out another file. This is the audio recording of you at the mall last night. You admitted on your own accord that you married me for money. That fulfills the betrayal clause in the agreement. Fin Jiang stared at the audio file, his body going rigid with shock. Stella, you're taking revenge on me. You're damn right I am. I looked down at his terrified expression. Did you really think betrayal came without a price? Then why did you meet with Wang Zhenhua? Because Jiang Group is going bankrupt tomorrow. I held out the debt list. This is the total amount your company owes Mr. Wang, 300 million yuan. Tomorrow he'll demand immediate repayment. Fin Jiang snatched the debt list, his face growing paler with every line he read. Some of these debts are fake. Which ones? I fixed him with a cold gaze. Every single entry has a signed contract, a bank transfer record, and your company's official seal of confirmation. Fin Jiang flipped through the documents frantically, but found no loopholes. The debts were all real, I just used various methods to extend their due dates before. Now I'd consolidated all of them under Wang Zhenhua's name, letting him collect the full amount in one go. Stella, you can't do this. Fin Jiang dropped to his knees. This company is my life's work, you can't destroy it. Your life's work. I looked down at him with disdain. What about mine? 5 years of love, 108 times I was moved to tears by your proposals, only to find out it was all a lie. Was my devotion worth nothing? I know I was wrong, I really do. Fin Jiang clung to my legs begging. I'll break up with Nora Lin. Let's start over please. It's too late. I kicked him away. Fin Jiang, remember this. Some things once lost can never be recovered. Trust, love. They're gone forever. Fin Jiang collapsed onto the floor, his eyes filled with utter despair. Stella, please give me one more chance. Chances. I grabbed my bag heading for the door. You used up all your chances long ago. I paused at the doorway, glancing back at him. Oh, and one more thing, board meeting at 9 tomorrow morning. Be sure to bring Nora Lin. Let her watch her man lose everything. With that, I walked out without a second glance. His agonized sobs echoed behind me, but not a shred of sympathy stirred in my heart. He chose betrayal, now he would face the consequences. And this was only the beginning. I drove to the hotel and approached the front desk to check in. Give me your best suite, I told the receptionist. Right away, Miss Shen. She handed me the room key with a respectful smile. Your suite is on the 28th floor. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you need anything. In the elevator, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. 5 years ago, Stella Shen was naive and kind, believing love could conquer all. Now, Stella Shen was calm and rational, knowing only strength could protect herself. Thank you, Fin Jiang, for teaching me that lesson. But our reckoning was far from over. Chapter 4. At 8:30 the next morning, I arrived at Jiang Group's building promptly. Today I dressed in a sharp black business suit, my hair tied back in a sleek ponytail, looking every bit like a judge about to deliver a death sentence. Wang Zhenhua's car pulled up beside mine, and he stepped out with his entire legal team in tow. Miss Shen, are we ready? Mr. Wang asked, approaching me. Absolutely. I checked my watch. 20 minutes left until the show begins. Stepping into the Jiang Group building, the receptionist looked up in surprise. Miss Shen, you're here. She greeted me respectfully. Mr. Jiang is waiting for you upstairs. I know. I strode straight for the elevator. Outside the boardroom, I could hear raised voices inside. Mr. Jiang, the company's cash flow is really stretched thin. It was the CFO speaking. We need to find new investors immediately, another director urged. Ms. Lin's project is promising if we can land that big contract. At the mention of Nora Lin's name, I pushed the door open and walked in. Silence fell over the room instantly and every eye turned to me. Fin Jiang sat at the head of the table, his face haggard and his eyes bloodshot. Beside him sat a young, beautiful woman, Nora Lin. Everyone, my apologies for being late. I walked gracefully to the conference table. May I ask what's on the agenda today? Stella, what are you doing here? Fin Jiang stood up abruptly, panic edging his voice. Why can't I be here? I pulled out the equity transfer agreement. As the new controlling shareholder of Jiang Group, I have every right to attend this board meeting. Gasps erupted around the room. What? Controlling shareholder? Mr. Jiang, what is the meaning of this? Fin Jiang's face turned crimson with embarrassment, but he forced a smile. It's just a misunderstanding. Stella's joking with everyone. Joking? I placed the agreement on the table. This is a notarized equity transfer agreement, legally binding. As of yesterday, I am the largest shareholder of Jiang Group. The CFO picked up the document and scanned it, his face draining of color. It's legitimate. Mr. Jiang, did you really transfer your shares to Ms. Shen? A director demanded. Fin Jiang opened his mouth but no words came out. Since I'm the shareholder now, I motioned to replace the chairman. I glanced around the room. All in favor? I approve. The CFO raised his hand first. I approve too. Approved. Within seconds, every hand was raised except for Fin Jiang's and Nora Lin's. Very well. Then from this moment onward, I am the new chairman of Jiang Group. I took a seat at the head of the table. Now let's discuss our first agenda item, the company's debt crisis. Just then the boardroom door swung open. Wang Zhenhua walked in, flanked by his legal team. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Wang said politely. I'm Wang Zhenhua. I'm here to discuss some outstanding debts with Jiang Group. Fin Jiang's face turned deathly pale when he saw him. Mr. Wang, what are you doing here? Mr. Jiang, we have a debt to settle. Mr. Wang pulled out the debt list. A total of 300 million yuan. I'm here to demand immediate repayment. The director's eyes widened in shock at the number. 300 million? When did our company incur such a huge debt? The CFO exclaimed. Every debt has a signed contract and supporting documents. Mr. Wang's lawyer distributed copies of the files to everyone. Please review them at your convenience. Fin Jiang's hands trembled as he took the documents. He remembered all these debts, but they'd all had extension agreements. Why was Wang demanding full repayment now? Mr. Wang, these debts all have extension agreements, Fin Jiang tried to explain. The extensions have expired, Mr. Wang said coldly. And according to the terms of the contracts, if payment is overdue, we have the right to demand full and immediate repayment of all outstanding amounts. But our company only has 50 million yuan in liquid assets right now, the CFO said anxiously. Then we'll have to file for bankruptcy liquidation, I said flatly. The company is beyond saving anyway. No. Fin Jiang shot to his feet. The company can't go bankrupt. Then do you have a better proposal? I looked at him coolly. How do you plan to pay back the 300 million yuan? Fin Jiang turned to Nora Lin, his eyes pleading for help. Nora Lin stood up, her chin held high. I have a project that can save the company. Oh, what project is that? I asked, feigning interest. A large-scale commercial complex design project. It's worth 1 billion yuan with a profit margin of at least 300 million. Nora Lin said confidently. I've almost finalized the deal with the client. Is that so? I pulled out my phone. Then let me call this client to confirm. With that, I dialed a number. Hello, Mr. Li. This is Stella Shen. A man's voice came through the speaker. Miss Shen, what can I do for you? I just wanted to confirm, have you signed a design contract with Nora Lin? Nora Lin. The man on the other end sounded confused. Miss Shen, we never considered working with anyone named Nora Lin. We signed our design contract with you, remember? Silence fell over the boardroom. Nora Lin's face turned as white as a sheet. I hung up the phone and smiled at her. Ms. Lin, your project sounds very interesting indeed. Chapter 5 Nora Lin collapsed into her chair, her face as pale as a sheet of paper. She opened her mouth but no coherent words came out. Fin Jiang jumped to her defense. There must be some misunderstanding. Nora would never lie to me. Misunderstanding. I let out a cold laugh. Mr. Jiang, is it a misunderstanding that your girlfriend deceived the company with a fake project? At the word girlfriend, the director's faces registered shock. Mr. Jiang, is this Ms. Lin your? The CFO asked cautiously. Fin Jiang's face flushed bright red, tongue-tied and unable to formulate a response. Allow me to clarify for everyone. I stood up. This is Ms. Nora Lin, Mr. Zhang's lover. On the very day we got married, he knelt in a shopping mall, begging for her forgiveness. With that, I pulled out my phone and played the surveillance video. The footage of Fin Jiang on his knees, pleading with Nora Lin, left the entire boardroom dead silent. Mr. Jiang, how could you? A director stared at him in disbelief. Now you all see the truth, don't you? I put my phone away. Not only did Mr. Jiang betray his wife, but he also tried to defraud the board with a non-existent project. Is such a man still fit to be our chairman? I moved to dismiss Fin Jiang from his position as chairman. The CFO stood up first. I second the motion. Seconded. In an instant, every hand was raised, except for Fin Jiang's and Nora Lin's. Very well, the motion is passed, I announced. Mr. Fin Jiang, you are removed from office. Fin Jiang slumped back in his chair, his eyes filled with utter despair. Stella, you can't do this. He made a last-ditch effort to resist. I can. I pulled out another document. This is the new resolution of the Jiang Group Board of Directors. In light of the company's severe debt crisis, the board has decided to introduce strategic investors. Wang Zhenhua stood up at the perfect moment. I am willing to invest in Jiang Group to help the company weather this storm. What are your investment terms? I asked. I will invest 500 million yuan in exchange for 60% of Jiang Group's equity, Wang Zhenhua stated. At these terms, Fin Jiang shot to his feet. No. This is nothing short of profiteering from our misfortune. Mr. Jiang, you are no longer chairman, you have no voting rights here, I said coldly. Besides, do you have any other options besides Mr. Wang's investment? Fin Jiang looked to the other directors for support, but they all averted their eyes. Dear directors, do any of you have objections to Mr. Wang's investment proposal? I asked. I think it's an excellent plan. At the very least it will save the company, the CFO replied. I agree. Me too. The investment agreement was quickly approved. Wang Zhenhua's lawyer produced the pre-prepared contract. Please sign here, directors. As Fin Jiang watched each director sign the contract, tears of despair streamed down his face. The company he had built from scratch was now mine for the taking. Stella, you've won. Fin Jiang's voice was weak. Are you satisfied now? Satisfied. I walked over to him. Fin Jiang, this is only the beginning. With that, I pulled out yet another document. What is this? Fin Jiang took it, his hands trembling. A lawsuit, I said flatly. I'm suing you and Nora Lin on charges of fraud and bigamy. Bigamy? Fin Jiang looked at me in confusion. Don't you remember? I pulled out a photo. This is you and Nora Lin outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, holding marriage certificates. Fin Jiang stared at the photo, his face turning ashen. In the picture, he and Nora Lin were indeed standing outside the bureau holding red marriage certificates. But he clearly recalled they had only gone there to apply for a certificate of proof, never to register a marriage. This photo is fake. Fin Jiang exclaimed in a hurry. The court will decide whether it's real or not. I took the photo back. But even if it is fake, your relationship with her is more than enough to constitute bigamy. Nora Lin finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Stella Shen, why are you being so cruel? Cruel. I turned my gaze to her. Ms. Lin, tell me, did you destroy my marriage first, or did I ruin your relationship? Nora Lin had nothing to say. Furthermore, I've uncovered some rather interesting facts about your identity. I pulled out another set of documents. Nora Lin, formerly known as Lin Xiaoxue, was convicted of fraud 3 years ago. She changed her name to Nora Lin after her release from prison. The room erupted in gasps of shock. Fin Jiang stared at Nora Lin in disbelief. Is this true? Nora Lin hung her head, unable to meet his eyes. Mr. Jiang, you really do have an eye for talent, I said with biting sarcasm. Abandoning a 5-year marriage for a convicted fraudster. Fin Jiang completely fell apart, burying his face in his hands and weeping bitterly. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Wrong. I looked down at him with disdain. Fin Jiang, some mistakes can never be undone. With that, I turned and walked out of the boardroom. His agonized sobs echoed behind me, but not a single ripple of emotion stirred in my heart. This was the price of betrayal. And this revenge was far from over. ##### Chapter 6. As soon as I stepped out of the Jiang Group building, my phone rang. It was my assistant Xiao Wang. Miss Shen, we've got all the information you requested. Xiao Wang's voice was brimming with excitement. You'll never guess what we found. Spit it out, I got into the car ready to head back to the law firm. Not only does Nora Lin have a fraud conviction, she's also married, Xiao Wang said. Her husband's name is Zhang Wei and they're still legally married. The news took me by surprise. Are you sure? Absolutely. I've already contacted Zhang Wei personally, Xiao Wang replied. He said Nora Lin disappeared 3 years ago and he hasn't heard from her since. Now that he knows she's with Fin Jiang, he's furious and wants to meet with you. Arrange a meeting for tomorrow morning, I said. The cafe at Wanda Plaza. Got it, Miss Shen. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't help but sneer. Nora Lin, your little secrets just keep getting more interesting. Back at the law firm, I began preparing for tomorrow's meeting. If Zhang Wei really was Nora Lin's husband, then her relationship with Fin Jiang was far more than just an affair. It could actually constitute bigamy. And bigamy was a crime punishable by imprisonment. The next morning, I arrived at the Wanda Plaza Cafe punctually. A moment later, a middle-aged man walked over. Are you Miss Shen, the lawyer? He looked nervous. I'm Zhang Wei. Please have a seat. I gestured for him to sit down. Mr. Zhang, I understand you're Nora Lin's husband? Yes, Zhang Wei nodded. We got married 3 years ago, but she vanished shortly after. I haven't had any news of her until now. Do you have your marriage certificate? Zhang Wei pulled out a red document. This is it. I took it and examined it, genuine without a doubt. Mr. Zhang, do you know what Nora Lin has been up to lately? I heard she's with some tycoon named Fin Jiang. Zhang Wei's voice seethed with anger. She's betrayed our marriage. It gets worse than that. I pulled out my phone and showed him some photos. She even tried to marry Fin Jiang. Seeing the photos, Zhang Wei's face turned crimson with rage. That damned woman. He slammed his fist on the table. She tried to commit bigamy. Mr. Zhang, if you're willing to testify in court, I can help you sue Nora Lin for bigamy, I said. Absolutely. Zhang Wei agreed without hesitation. I want her to pay for what she's done. Just then 2 familiar figures appeared at the cafe entrance. Fin Jiang and Nora Lin walked in holding hands. When he saw me, Fin Jiang froze for a second, then tried to drag Nora Lin away. Mr. Jiang, since you're here, why not come over and join us? I called out loudly. Fin Jiang had no choice but to approach, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Stella, what are you doing here? I'm having a chat with a friend. I nodded toward Zhang Wei. Mr. Zhang, wouldn't you like to say hello to them? Zhang Wei stood up, glaring at Nora Lin with blazing fury. Lin Xiaoxue, so you've finally shown your face. At the sound of her real name, Nora Lin's face turned deathly pale. You. Who are you? She stumbled backward, trembling. I'm your husband, Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei roared. You've been missing for 3 years and all this time you've been playing mistress to someone else. The word husband hit Fin Jiang like a bolt of lightning, leaving him frozen in place. Nora, what is he talking about? Fin Jiang asked, his voice shaking. Nora Lin tried to explain, but the words stuck in her throat. Did she never tell you? Zhang Wei sneered. We got married 3 years ago and we're still not divorced. With that, Zhang Wei pulled out his marriage certificate and held it up for Fin Jiang to see. Fin Jiang took the certificate, his face draining of all color, paler than a corpse. Nora. Is this true? His voice was barely a whisper. Nora Lin finally broke down in tears. Fin, I can explain. Explain what? Fin Jiang's voice suddenly rose, echoing through the cafe. Explain that you're a married woman? Explain that you've been lying to me this entire time? The other patrons turned to stare, some pulling out their phones to record the scene. Sir, please refrain from making a scene, a waiter approached. But Fin Jiang paid him no mind, his eyes bloodshot as he confronted Nora Lin. 3 years. I've been with you for 3 years. You never once told me you were married. Fin, please listen to me. Nora Lin reached out to touch him. Fin Jiang roughly shoved her hand away. Listen to what? Listen to how you lied to me. Or how you have a criminal record for fraud. At the mention of her fraud conviction, the onlookers erupted into murmurs and whispers. That woman's a convicted criminal? She looks so innocent, who would have thought? That guy's the boss of Jiang Group, right? He got played so hard. Unable to bear the scrutiny, Nora Lin turned to run. But Zhang Wei stepped forward, blocking her path. Where do you think you're going? He sneered. Lin Xiaoxue, you still owe me money. What money? Fin Jiang asked numbly. She borrowed 500,000 yuan from me before we got married, claiming it was for an investment, Zhang Wei said. She ran off with every penny. With interest she now owes me at least 1 million. At the sound of that figure Fin Jiang's last shred of hope shattered completely. He stared at Nora Lin, his eyes burning with hatred. So from the very beginning you were just using me? His voice was eerily calm, laced with a terrifying rage. My company is bankrupt, my marriage is destroyed. All for a con artist. Nora Lin could only sob, unable to utter a single word. Fin Jiang suddenly laughed, a hollow bitter sound that echoed through the cafe. Stella Shin, you won, he turned to me. You won fair and square. I never wanted to compete with you, I said flatly. You chose this path for yourself. Fin Jiang nodded slowly, then turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving Nora Lin standing alone, trapped between an enraged husband and a crowd of gossiping onlookers. And I sat there quietly watching it all unfold. This revenge was even more satisfying than I had imagined. ####. Chapter 7. After Fin Jiang left, the atmosphere in the cafe grew even more tense. Zhang Wei pointed at Nora Lin furiously. Lin Xiaoxue, come back with me. I'm not going anywhere. Nora Lin sobbed, stepping back. We haven't had any feelings for each other for ages. No feelings. Zhang Wei sneered. Then why didn't you divorce me? Why haven't you paid back my money? The crowd of onlookers swelled, some filming the scene to post online. Isn't she the homewrecker who ruined that man's marriage? So she has a husband of her own, double adultery. Some women have no shame at all. Besieged by the pointing fingers and mocking whispers, Nora Lin completely broke down. She dashed out of the cafe, desperate to escape. But as soon as she reached the mall atrium she was surrounded by a swarm of reporters. Ms. Lin, what do you have to say about destroying someone else's marriage? Do you admit to having a prior conviction for fraud? How do you plan to resolve your marital issues with Mr. Zhang? Faced with their relentless questioning, Nora Lin could not utter a single word. She tried to push through the crowd, but the reporters closed ranks around her, blocking every exit. Just then Fin Jiang reappeared. He shoved the reporters aside and grabbed Nora Lin by the arm. Come with me. His voice was cold as ice. Fin. Hope flickered in Nora Lin's eyes when she saw him. But Fin Jiang's next words crushed her hope completely. We're going to the Civil Affairs Bureau, to get a divorce. What? Nora Lin stared at him in disbelief. We were never even married. Cut the act. Fin Jiang pulled out a photo. You made me take this yesterday saying you wanted a memento. Now I know the truth, you planned to use this photo to trick people into thinking we were married. In the photo they were indeed standing outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, holding red documents in their hands. But those documents were not marriage certificates, they were Fin Jiang's ID cards. Fin, it really was a misunderstanding. Nora Lin tried to explain. Enough. Fin Jiang's voice boomed. Nora Lin, I see you for who you really are now. You're nothing but a complete and utter fraud. With that he released her arm and turned to leave. As of today we're done for good. Nora Lin tried to chase after him but Zhang Wei blocked her path. You're not going anywhere. He grabbed her wrist tightly. You have to pay back the money you owe me. I don't have any money. Nora Lin wailed. No money. Zhang Wei sneered. Then you'll pay me another way. He pulled out his phone and snapped several photos of Nora Lin looking disheveled and distraught. I'll post these online for everyone to see your true colors. No. Nora Lin lunged for the phone, but Zhang Wei shoved her away roughly. Watching the scene unfold, I decided it was time to step in. I walked over to them. Mr. Zhang, creating a public disturbance like this isn't very wise, is it? I said. Ms. Shen. When Zhang Wei saw me, his attitude turned respectful immediately. You're absolutely right. I should resolve this through legal channels. Then let's call the police. I pulled out my phone. Nora Lin is suspected of fraud and bigamy. The police should handle this. The word police sent Nora Lin into a state of panic. Don't call the police. She dropped to her knees and begged. Stella Shin, please spare me. Spare you. I looked down at her with disdain. Did you think about sparing me when you destroyed my marriage? I know I was wrong, I really do. Nora Lin cried, her face streaked with tears. I'll leave Fin Jiang. I'll divorce Zhang Wei. Just please don't call the police. It's too late. I had already dialed 110. Hello police. I want to report a case of fraud and bigamy. Hearing me make the call, Nora Lin's last shred of hope vanished. She collapsed onto the floor, staring blankly into space with empty eyes. Moments later the police arrived at the scene. Who called the police? An officer asked. I did. I pulled out my lawyer's ID. I'm attorney Stella Shin and I'm reporting this woman for fraud and bigamy. The officer checked my credentials, then proceeded to question everyone involved. With Zhang Wei's testimony and the supporting evidence, Nora Lin was taken into custody without delay. Before being led away, she shot me a final glance. Her eyes were filled with hatred and despair. But not a single trace of sympathy crossed my mind. This was exactly what she deserved. Watching the police car drive away, I pulled out my phone and sent a text message to Fin Jiang. The show is over. Your little lover is going to jail. Satisfied. A reply came moments later. Stella Shin, you really are ruthless. I stared at the text and let out a cold laugh. Ruthless? This was merely the tip of the iceberg. My revenge plan was far from complete. Next, it was Fin Jiang's turn to face the music. I pulled out my phone and dialed Wang Zhenhua's number. Mr. Wang, it's time to initiate phase 2 of the plan. Received, Ms. Shin. Wang Zhenhua's voice was brimming with excitement. I guarantee Fin Jiang will never be able to rise again. After hanging up the phone, I glanced around the mall atrium. This was the very spot where Fin Jiang had knelt for Nora Lin. Now Nora Lin was behind bars and Fin Jiang had lost everything. And here I stood unscathed and victorious. The taste of triumph was sweet. Chapter 8 3 days later, I received an unexpected phone call. It was from Fin Jiang. Stella, can we meet? His voice sounded weak and exhausted. There are some things I need to say to you face to face. Can't you say them over the phone? I flipped through the documents in my hand, my tone indifferent. I want to apologize to you in person. Fin Jiang said. Also, I want to know when you started planning all of this. The question piqued my interest. Fine, let's meet. I checked my watch. The usual spot, the cafe at Wanda Plaza. 1 hour from now. Okay. After hanging up, I straightened my clothes and prepared to head out. 1 hour later, I arrived at the cafe punctually. Fin Jiang was already waiting for me. He looked utterly haggard, his eyes bloodshot and sunken, clear signs that he had not slept properly in days. Have a seat. I sat down across from him. Stella, I'm sorry. Fin Jiang's first words were an apology. I know I hurt you. I know I made unforgivable mistakes. And my voice remained calm and even. I want to ask you, when did you start suspecting me? Fin Jiang looked into my eyes. I thought I had hidden everything so well. I let out a soft chuckle. Fin Jiang, did you really think you were being discreet? Wasn't I? Do you know this? I pulled out my phone. 3 months ago, I hired a private investigator to follow you. The color drained from Fin Jiang's face instantly. You knew all along. I knew not only about your relationship with Nora Lin, but also every location you met at, every time you checked into a hotel together. I scrolled through my phone screen. Would you like to see the photos? Fin Jiang shook his head numbly. He did not need to see them. Then why? He hesitated, unable to finish his question. Why did I still agree to marry you? I finished the sentence for him. Because I needed a legal basis to take everything from you. What do you mean? Fin Jiang, did you really think you signed that equity transfer agreement on a whim? I sneered. It was a trap I carefully laid for you. Fin Jiang's eyes widened in shock. Do you remember? I continued. The day after I rejected your first marriage proposal, you met a fortune teller on the street. The fortune teller said that you were destined to meet a woman who would catapult your career to new heights. But you had to prove your absolute sincerity to win her heart. Fin Jiang's face grew paler with each passing second. That fortune teller was an actor I hired, I said flatly. His sole purpose was to make you volunteer to sign that agreement. That's impossible. Fin Jiang shook his head in denial. You couldn't have planned something this elaborate. Why not? I pulled out a document. This is the plan I drafted 3 months ago. It details every single step from tricking you into signing the agreement, to gathering evidence of your infidelity, to bankrupting your company. Everything was mapped out with meticulous precision. Fin Jiang took the document and read it, his face contorting with horror as he turned each page. The plan was indeed terrifyingly detailed. It even predicted the exact times and locations where he would appear on certain days with near-perfect accuracy. Stella, why did you do this to me? Fin Jiang's voice trembled. We had 5 years of love between us. 5 years of love? I let out a scoff of contempt. Fin Jiang, do you know when I stopped trusting you? When? 2 years ago, the first time you cheated on me. I watched as shock registered on his face. Did you think Nora Lin was the only one? Before her there was your secretary Xiao Zhang, your client Ms. Wang and even your gym trainer Xiao Lu. Fin Zhang's face turned as white as a sheet of paper. I knew about all of them, I continued. Every single time I gave you a chance to confess your mistakes voluntarily. But every single time, you chose to hide the truth and lie to me. Stella, So that's when I began planning everything you see today. I cut him off. 2 years was more than enough time to weave a web that would ensnare you completely. Fin Jiang slumped back in his chair, his eyes filled with utter despair. So you knew about Nora Lin from the very start too? Of course. I nodded. Her fraud conviction, her marriage to Zhang Wei, I knew every single detail. I even knew exactly why she approached you. Why? She wanted to swindle money out of you. I pulled out another set of documents. She owed 3 million yuan to loan sharks and was desperate for cash to pay them off. That's why she made up that fake design project. She planned to con you out of the money. Fin Jiang stared at the documents, his mind reeling. So from start to finish I was nothing but a fool? He said bitterly, a hollow laugh escaping his lips. Finally you understand. I stood up, preparing to leave. Fin Jiang, this is the price of betrayal. Stella, wait. Fin Jiang called out to me. You've already taken everything from me. Isn't that enough? Enough. I turned to look at him, my eyes cold. Fin Jiang, do you really think a company's equity can compensate me for 5 years of wasted youth and 2 years of humiliation? What more could you possibly want? I smiled at him, a cold, calculating smile. Fin Jiang, you'll find out soon enough. With that, I walked away without looking back. His agonized cries echoed behind me, but I did not turn around. Because the real show was only just beginning. ##### Chapter 9. The next morning, I was handling documents at the law firm when my assistant Xiao Wang rushed in, looking flustered. Miss Shin, something terrible has happened. Her face was ashen with anxiety. What is it? I set down the papers in my hand. Fin Jiang has been arrested. Xiao Wang exclaimed. He's suspected of contract fraud on a huge scale. The news didn't surprise me in the least. When did this happen? Early this morning. The police went straight to his house to arrest him. Xiao Wang said. Now all the major media outlets are reporting on it. I opened my computer and sure enough the headlines were splashed across the screen. Former Jiang Group chairman Fin Jiang arrested on suspicion of contract fraud, involving 50 million yuan. The comment section below was buzzing. Isn't this the cheating scumbag we heard about? Karma's a bitch. Serves him right, you reap what you sow. I closed the web page and dialed Wang Zhenhua's number. Mr. Wang, the plan went smoothly. It certainly did, Ms. Shen. Wang Zhenhua's voice was filled with satisfaction. Those contracts are indeed fraudulent, more than enough to put Fin Jiang behind bars for several years. These contracts were all signed by Fin Jiang during his relationship with Nora Lin. To satisfy Nora Lin's demands, he had engaged in numerous irregular operations on various projects. And now, those irregularities had become solid evidence against him. By the way, Ms. Shen, are you really not going to defend him? Mr. Wang asked. After all, you're the best lawyer in town. Defend him. I let out a cold laugh. Mr. Wang, do you really think I'd defend someone who betrayed me? You're right, I spoke without thinking. Mr. Wang quickly apologized. After hanging up the phone, I stared out the window at the clear blue sky. Fin Jiang, this is the price you pay for betrayal. That afternoon, I received another unexpected call. It was from Fin Jiang's mother. Stella, please save my son. Mother Jiang sobbed over the phone. He's locked up in detention now. You're a lawyer, you must have a way to help him. Aunt Jiang, I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. My voice remained calm. Stella, I know Fin wronged you, but he's still your husband. Mother Jiang continued weeping. For the sake of our past kindness, please help him. Kindness. I sneered. Aunt Jiang, did you think about kindness when your son cheated on me on our wedding day? I know Fin made a mistake, but he's already paid for it. Mother Jiang said. He lost his company, his reputation is ruined, what more do you want? I want him to know that some mistakes cost a lifetime. I said sharply, no longer holding back. Stella, how did you become so cruel? Mother Jiang's voice was filled with disappointment. Cruel. Memories of the humiliation I'd endured over the past 2 years flooded my mind. Aunt Jiang, I'm just seeking the justice I deserve. With that, I hung up the phone. A few days later, Nora Lin's case reached a verdict. She was convicted of fraud and bigamy, sentenced to 3 years in prison. That night, I celebrated alone at home with a glass of red wine. Just then the doorbell rang. Thinking it was a delivery, I opened the door, only to find Fin Jiang's mother standing on my doorstep. She looked utterly exhausted, her eyes swollen and red from crying. "Aunt Jiang." I was slightly surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Stella, please save Fin." Mother Jiang dropped to her knees in front of me. "I'm begging you, have mercy on him." Seeing her like this, a flicker of compassion stirred in my heart. After all, she had always been kind to me. "Aunt Jiang, please get up." I helped her to her feet. "Let's go inside and talk." Mother Jiang entered the house and sat on the sofa, continuing to sob. "Stella, Fin is remorseful every day in detention. He says he's sorry for what he did to you. He knows he was wrong." "Knows he was wrong." I sat down across from her. "If apologies were enough, why do we have laws?" "Stella, I know you have the power to save him." Mother Jiang grabbed my hand tightly. "If you agree to defend him, he'll definitely get a reduced sentence." Looking into Mother Jiang's hopeful eyes, a sudden idea popped into my head. "Aunt Jiang, I can defend Fin Jiang," I said. Mother Jiang's eyes lit up instantly. "Really? But there's a condition." I continued. "Anything, name it. I want Fin Jiang to admit all his mistakes in court in front of everyone, including his infidelity, deception, and betrayal." I stared directly into her eyes. "And he must apologize to me publicly." Mother Jiang hesitated. That's my condition." My voice was firm. "If he refuses, I won't defend him." Mother Jiang thought for a moment, then nodded reluctantly. "Okay, I'll talk to Fin." The next day, Mother Jiang brought back Fin Jiang's response. He had agreed to my terms. It seemed that prison life had truly terrified him. I began preparing the defense materials for Fin Jiang. Of course, my real goal wasn't to save him. It was to make him admit his despicable actions in court, in front of the entire world. This kind of humiliation would be more painful than any prison sentence. "Fin Jiang, did you really think you could escape? Even in court I would make you pay." Chapter 10. The court date arrived soon. The courtroom was packed with parties involved, lawyers, journalists, and curious onlookers. When Fin Jiang was escorted into the courtroom by bailiffs, I studied his expression carefully. He looked haggard, but there was still a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Clearly, he thought I was truly going to save him. After the judge announced the start of the trial, the prosecutor began reading the indictment. Fin Jiang was suspected of contract fraud involving an enormous sum of money with serious circumstances. If convicted, he would face more than 10 years in prison. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up and said, "Your Honor, my client wishes to plead guilty." Upon hearing this, Fin Jiang stared at me in shock. But court rules were strict, he couldn't speak. "Please have the defendant stand," the judge said. Fin Jiang was forced to his feet. "Fin Jiang, do you admit to committing contract fraud?" the judge asked. Fin Jiang glanced at me and I nodded slightly. "Very well." The judge continued. "Now, are you willing to testify about the details of your crime in court?" At that moment I stood up again. "Your Honor, my client not only wishes to testify about his crime, but also to publicly apologize to his wife." An uproar erupted in the courtroom. Everyone already knew about Fin Jiang's infidelity. Now, a public apology in court would be a major news story. "Please proceed, defendant," the judge said. Fin Jiang took a deep breath and began to speak. "My name is Fin Jiang and I am guilty of contract fraud." His voice echoed clearly in the courtroom. "But before committing this crime, I made an even more unforgivable mistake. I betrayed my wife, Stella Shin." Fin Jiang turned to look at me. "On the very day we got married, I was still entangled with another woman." Journalists in the courtroom frantically took photos and recorded videos. "I deceived her, hurt her, and betrayed the trust she had in me." Fin Jiang's voice began to tremble. "I abandoned a woman who truly loved me for a liar. I knelt in a shopping mall to beg for the forgiveness of my mistress. I bought her expensive gifts. I even planned to marry her." Tears streamed down Fin Jiang's face. "While my wife waited for me at home alone." Hearing this, people in the courtroom shook their heads in disapproval. "What a scumbag," someone whispered. "A man like this deserves to be punished." Fin Jiang continued, "Stella, I'm sorry. I know these words are too late, but I have to say them. You are the best woman in the world and I am the most unworthy man alive." He dropped to his knees in the courtroom. "I betrayed your love, wasted your youth, I deserve to die." Watching this scene, not a single emotion stirred in my heart. These words had come far too late. After the judge restored order, the trial continued. In the end, Fin Jiang was sentenced to 8 years in prison. My real goal had been to make him publicly admit his despicable actions. As I walked out of the courtroom, Mother Jiang chased after me. "Stella, why did you do this?" Her eyes blazed with anger. "You could have saved him." "Aunt Jiang, I did defend him," I said flatly. 8 years is 2 years less than 10, that's the result of my defense. "But you made him admit everything in public." Mother Jiang began, but I cut her off. "Made him tell the truth in public?" I looked at her. "Aunt Jiang, do you really think he shouldn't be held accountable for his actions?" Mother Jiang had nothing to say. She knew deep down that Fin Jiang had wronged me first. After leaving the court, I received a call from Wang Zhenhua. "Miss Shen, congratulations on your final victory," Mr. Wang said. "The acquisition of Jiang Group's assets is complete. You are now the largest shareholder of our company." "Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Wang," I said. "It was my pleasure," Mr. Wang replied. "But Miss Shen, what are your plans next?" I looked at the bustling crowd outside the court and thought for a moment. "I'm planning to go abroad for a while to relax." "That's a good idea. You certainly deserve a break." After hanging up the phone, I drove back home. The house was quiet just like it had been for the past 2 years. But this quiet was different. Before, it had been the quiet of painful waiting. Now it was the quiet of victory. I walked out onto the balcony and stared at the city's night view. "Fin Jiang, this is the price of betrayal. The marriage you won with 108 proposals ultimately cost you 8 years in prison." The end.